You're going to want to watch this video all the way through till the end because the majority of people could lose everything and you guys want to be prepared. So this time we're going to be looking at the opinion of Peter Schiff. So we're going to be going over his personal beliefs and that is what this video is based on. So the intro. This is a continuation of our series looking at analysts and professional opinions, and now we're going to be looking into Peter Schiff. For those of you who do not know, he is an American stockbroker, financial commentator, and radio personality. He is also the CEO and Chief Global Strategist for Euro-Pacific Capital Inc., a broker-dealer based in Westport, Connecticut. So his core beliefs revolve around a few things. What he spoke about here about a year ago is this, and we're feeling this really have an effect right now, so it is more profound than ever. He says the big difference between working, as in earning money, versus having it printed. Well, that is where we see jobs and work. Jobs and works are simply providing goods and services that people want or need. And the trade-off for this work is you earn money. You use that money to buy goods and services that you want or need. And then that goes back in to other people and the loop continues. Now he believes that there is a trade-off here, and that is the fact that the more work that you do, the more money you earn, or at least that is the philosophy behind how capitalism is supposed to work. And printing money allows people to make money at home from doing absolutely nothing, being unproductive. And this is what he referred to when he was speaking about what we saw perhaps through the pandemic and that sort of thing. So we saw that happen, and of course these people are not being productive and still have the power to buy goods and services, so they aren't doing the work and they are able to purchase. And the consequence of this, in his opinion, is that it drives up prices. More people are chasing a diminished supply of products due to the productivity being down. So obviously supply and demand would dictate that prices go up, and there is a real consequence of this. He believes that as more money is chasing less goods and services, prices will continue to increase, and he thinks this will continue to create massive levels of inflation, which is inevitably bad. Prices going up will reduce the cost of living, as we've discussed before, because people will have less real terms money to spend. Inflation makes prices go up, but it also prevents prices from coming down from where they already are, producing less purchasing power, which is always going to be a bad thing. Now, what we see here in the real terms effects of this in the world as of current. A lot of inflation since the 2008 financial crash, in his opinion, has moved into the financial markets. Now, he believes that one consequence of this is the inflated prices that we are seeing right now. Now, there is something that we have seen as well. When the asset prices go up, people don't really complain, as those who own stocks, those who own real estate, and other collectibles, they see their valuations go up, they see their net worths based on this also rise, and that's going to be something which nobody complains about. But there is a downside, which is where people who are not in those markets want to buy in, such as the housing market is a big one, as we have seen, as people simply cannot afford to pay the current prices, but also the stock market. People can't afford to buy what they would want to, and again, other markets do apply, but they're just two obvious ones which we can talk about. So he believes that the government will offset this by keeping the interest rates low, allowing people to continue to artificially buy things that they do not need to buy at these high prices, continuing the bubble artificially. So again, if market forces had their own way, he believes that prices would have come down by now, or at least that is what I was able to grasp from it. Now, he believes that this is now changing. Consumer prices are really starting to go up, and we're all feeling this in everybody's pockets, as the real terms amount of money people can spend is going down, and inflation is skyrocketing, which again is painful for most people. Now, what will happen? Let's have a think about this. The government doesn't want people to realise that this bubble is on the verge of collapse, because it's just not very good for them. But one thing that is very interesting is that we have seen in the last couple of weeks, the Fed actually announced for once that some pain may be ahead. But realistically, that is more, in my opinion, damage limitation than it is preparing people for the absolute worst. So people are going to be prepared slightly, but again, the government and the Fed don't want them to realise this bubble is on the verge of absolute collapse. Now, this absurd belief that people want to see higher prices, i.e. the message that inflation is a good thing, inflation is something which is transitory, it's not necessarily true. And we're seeing this as people just don't want to pay these prices. People just can't pay these prices. So the government justification of this policy is just inadequate. He believes that we're really going to start to feel the effects of all of these things that we have seen soon, and the pandemic did not help, making everything worse, as, like we saw in his earlier points, the productivity levels were lower, people were staying at home, and again, potentially that could cause prices to increase further in his belief. Now, coming down a little bit further to what we can see is, when we look forwards and look at what's going to happen in the future, we can see that Peter has been speaking about this subject for about a year right now, and a lot of this is now starting to manifest itself and come into fruition. Now, right now, this information has been shown to be more relevant than ever, as we are really starting to see the effects of this play out and have a real impact on all of our lives. Peter is just one of many professionals that we have looked at who thinks a major crash is ahead and we should be prepared for an absolute worst case scenario. So guys, what do you think? Well, my opinion is simply this. We can look at the facts. It's one thing to look at the professionals' opinions, but let's have a look at the facts. There are a few things that we know and can't be denied. We are looking at one of the longest bull runs that we have seen in some time. Again, we've been rallying for about 10 years. Especially in the last 2 years, asset prices really have skyrocketed, and looking back to his earlier points, yes, we have seen those prices go up significantly throughout the pandemic really, and coming into 21, not that many people were complaining. Not many people were complaining about asset prices being high, houses being high, the stock market being at all-time highs, but again, this does not come without its cost. And I think we are going to start to feel this cost soon enough. As simply put, the price of things is rising, the valuation of assets is falling, and the question is, how does that go on to affect us in the future? And where does this actually all end? Because we're already seeing inflation pretty high, around 10% if not going up in the future. Now, what we're also seeing is demand for products going down. If you watched our Cathy Wood video, she spoke about how inventory is building up as people just don't want to / can't buy the things that they otherwise would have. We're seeing the price of assets on the stock market, and of course houses now starting to slightly fall, and the question is this going to be the start of the crash? Now, of course guys, as I always say, I am not a financial advisor, but one thing that I can say is that we should all prepare. Those who do prepare will probably come out of this better than those who just walked in obliviously. And it is true, in all financial crises, crashes, depressions, most people do lose a lot, a real terms loss, but some people actually make a fortune during that time. And that is why the preparation is going to be key. So make sure you are doing your research, make sure you are staying informed, and you could come out perhaps better than otherwise you would have. So guys, as always, do make sure to subscribe to the channel. More of this sort of stuff is going to be coming at you throughout the week. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you all again very soon. Goodbye for now.